Hello and welcome to week 8 of the term. So this week is a kind of 1 week quick project on sketchy landscapes. So this was kind of put forward by a student, and the idea behind it really was, how do you go about doing a sketch when you're out on location, perhaps when you're out on holiday. What to capture, what not to capture, and how to sort of really get the best out of trying to record something. So really what I've done is I've kind of broken it down into kind of manageable kind of chunks. So what I've done is I've kind of emailed you this picture that I took at Osterley Park, and you can see the little kind of manor house there in the distance. And it's a lovely kind of picture that you can kind of work from. It's got some lighter areas and some lovely darks in it as well. Of course, you don't have to use this picture at all. I'm sure that you have got loads of photos that you've taken whilst you've been out and about, perhaps over the summer or even before then. So you can definitely use one of those. This is obviously just a vehicle for me to show you how I would go about it. So the first thing to think about is composition. So there you are, you're confronted with a lovely kind of scene. Now, the questions you need to ask yourself is, what is it that's kind of stopped me in my tracks and wanting me to kind of paint this? So there must be a kind of unique kind of feature that is kind of jumping out at you. So the first thing to think about is how to capture that. Is it going to be a horizontal kind of composition? So for example, with this picture here, I could kind of crop it and make it more of a kind of horizontal. I could kind of zoom in on a certain area, because obviously that to me is actually sort of quite interesting, as I'm kind of looking across this water to that. So am I going to do this, or am I going to kind of let's turn it around the other way. Am I going to do something more vertical? Is that the most sort of interesting kind of composition? So that is something to kind of think about. So I've kind of written down on here, look at bigger shapes. What is it that kind of is quite interesting, with the bigger shapes? So, it could be these trees and this kind of coming across, and then the lightness kind of going through. And looking for unique shapes that actually, or sort of objects within the composition, within what you're looking at, that make it unique. So for example, for me, it would be the manor house in the distance. That's what makes this unique. And then thinking about where I want to put that manor house. Is it going to be on the right hand side, so I can get this little duck in as well, kind of looking across? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be, horizontal, where I get the whole thing in? Is it going to be horizontal but I'm zooming in a little bit? So really kind of have a think about that composition in that first instance. So once you have decided on your composition, vertical, horizontal, then it's time to do a little value sketch. So this should only take a sort of 2 to 3 minutes, and all you're going to do really is kind of just have a little kind of study of your scene, and really kind of decide what you want to include, what you don't want to include, and start looking at all the kind of tonal values. So I've decided to go with more of a kind of horizontal composition. And the great thing about doing these little value sketches is that you can do lots of them and see which one kind of works best. So I've chosen, I'll just show you very quickly, I've chosen this scene. That's my little crop. And so really for me, the next thing I need to do is look at that. So first thing to do is obviously put in that kind of horizon line in the distance, and then put my little manor house in. Again, I'm just kind of being very sketchy. You know, I've got some trees here, and then I've got these lovely sort of bigger trees that go off down like this. Something like that, and then I've got this coming across like that, and then I've got all these kind of trees kind of providing a little kind of framing around the top, and not forgetting my little duck here, geese, whatever it is. I think it's a geese. He's standing right there. So now that I've done a lovely little line drawing of what I would like to include, let's think about the tonal values. So remember, light, mid, dark. Okay, so I'm going to start with the darkest tone first because that's easier for me. Okay, so very quickly I've done that lovely little kind of value sketch. I'm quite pleased with how it's working. I've got this lovely sort of dark area leading to the lighter area here, and this lovely sort of canopy sort of framing the whole picture. So the next thing to do would be to go on to redrawing this lovely line sketch and then just really getting on with the painting. Okay, so the first thing would be blocking in the main colours. Okay, so in terms of colours, I'm going to stick to my three primary colours, so French ultramarine, Windsor yellow or cadmium yellow, and alizarin crimson, and bringing in burnt umber because I know that I'm going to need some darks. So if I'm out sketching, for example, I try and take just my three primaries and a brown, the brown obviously being burnt umber, because you know you just want to really record the colour that you can see, and more importantly the tonal values that you can see as well. Okay, so let's get started with the painting. Okay, so that's the first layer done, and I've just blocked in the shapes. Okay, so I've got my trees, I've got my kind of lighter trees, I've got my the manor house in there, and I'm starting to kind of think about this kind of foreground area. So if I was out on location, perhaps, you know, this might have already dried and I can kind of go on to the next layer. But what I'm going to do is allow that to dry for a little while, maybe sort of 10-15 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll do the next stage. Okay, so the next bit is about adding texture and little bits of interest within the painting. So obviously everything that's in the distance is going to be less so, and things that are in the foreground are going to have a little bit more texture. So let's put some more paint out and let's get started with that. And that really is for me the texture part of the painting kind of done really. So what I've done is I've kind of added a little bit of interest in the background and kind of really start thinking about the kind of foreground and what's kind of happening here. So the trees that were overhanging, if you recall looking at my picture, I think I'm going to paint them more or less at the end. I think I was about to put them in now but then changed my mind because I still might need to do a little bit more work in here. Okay, so that's the texture part of the painting done. So the next thing that we need to think about, and it's the last thing of the last part of the painting, is the tonal values and adding depth. And that's what I'm going to do next. So really kind of looking at sorry, I'm just going to grab my tonal sketch. Oops, it's just here. Sort of bringing back your tonal sketch and trying to bring some of this back into your painting. Okay, so that is really what I'm kind of referring to now, really more than the photograph itself. So there it is, the finished sketch, all done, and I don't think I really need to do anything more to that. If I was then going to take that into more of a sort of final painting, it's a fantastic start for me to then kind of build up on.